Okay, we're back again with this little Alice project, and you might notice that there's something a little bit different than the last time you saw this. The last time, it looked kind of like you were looking at an organic lumpy tube that you couldn't see the inside of. And in reality, uh, the surfaces of models in 3D, the faces of them are only one-sided. If I look around the backside, they're invisible. So if you were inside these tunnels like this, you can see that all the walls are opaque. But when you come out here, they're you can see inside of it because we're looking through the backside. And as an example, like here's a cube. If I were to take this cube and I was to edit it and remove one of the surfaces, you can see that uh, that the way in which Gravity Sketch uh, renders its surfaces, it's rendering them uh, as two-sided. So each side has a surface, but in reality they do not. So what I do is I go outside, I take this model that you saw last time, I export it into Blender, and then I make sure that it is turning off the ability to see the backside of these one-sided surfaces. This is very handy when you're starting to place objects in there. You know that ultimately you're going to be experiencing these spaces from the inside, so you'll never see that invisible backside. But it does necessitate my having to take the model, take it outside, make the change, and bring it back in before that works. Now, if I were to take this and edit it at all, it would turn back the two-sidedness of it. So currently, I can't toggle that on or off. That'll probably change in the future. But you also notice that I colored it a little bit. I just added a little bit of color. And since this is going to be a pretty low poly model, mostly for reference, I'm using a very simple one texture method that's often used for low poly games. This one texture allows me to choose colors for various areas, and I just apply that color to whatever surfaces that I've mapped out with my geometry. So like the wainscoting color difference is because I actually have a line of separating the two halves of the wall so that one could be colored a different color. So the other thing that I did is one of the realities of working in any digital program is that as much as I would love for us to live in a world where one application does everything, we're always going to be jumping back and forth. So a lot of stuff could be done in Gravity Sketch, but it's sometimes easier to jump out and use another program and bring those assets in. And the other thing is that perhaps Blender itself would be the perfect place to build a lot of assets like the furniture and the lights and the doors. But I've spent so many years working in SketchUp that for me, it's actually faster to build more architectural elements in SketchUp. So that's exactly what I did. I went into SketchUp and I built the doors and the wainscoting in SketchUp. Every program also has its own idiosyncrasy, so I had to make sure that the backs of the things I built in SketchUp were going to be viewable through, like these walls are, only one-sided, and also had to kind of tell Gravity Sketch that I understood that all the pieces were connected, all the vertices were connected, or else it'll start to create additional geometry that I don't necessarily want and will have to clean up in here. So I've already brought those in. So if I turn that layer on, I call it the doors and wainscoting. Here is the little doors and wainscoting that I built in SketchUp. And I haven't colored them because I'm going to probably be manipulating and editing them. As soon as I do that, any color that I have applied to them would be lost. So I could take any of these, and it looks like the door handles, for some reason, aren't connected. So I'm going to take the doors with their door handles and add those. And I've got doors that I can mix and match and place in the hallway. And then I've got a variety of wainscoting, these lower wall wood panels. And they're very straight, but I've built them in such a way that the geometry will allow me to bend and wrap them around the floor. And I've done this a little bit down here. So you'll see an area. Oh, look at all these I have to get rid of. Here's the hallway where I've actually brought that wainscoting in. Let's get to 100 so I can get to scale. There we go, 100. There we go, and I can bring out my teleporter. So this is already starting to look much more solid than it was before with these wainscoting, and I'm just sort of messily started to bring these in. But I'm going to show you how I did that by sort of pulling from my little library of doors and wainscoting to start creating the walls in here. And I'm going to keep these rough doors in place until I can replace them with the geometry versions. So let me show you how that's done. So I'm going to take one of these wainscoting panels. Let's see, maybe down here. I'll start over here. I'm going to grab this style and I'm going to pull one and I'm just going to press the trigger button, which means that I've retained the one here and now I have a copy of that. So I'm going to bring this down in here and I'm going to just sort of loosely line it up. Now at this point I want to make sure that all this other stuff is locked. So I'm going to lock everything out so I don't accidentally grab something except for the wainscoting. I'm going to place this and now I'm going to want to conform to the floor and this sort of up and down line work here, this edging. So I am going to grab it and I'm going to choose, whoops, I'm going to grab it and choose to subdivide it. And you, whoops, and you can see that now there's all the geometry that makes them up. And there's a variety of ways that I can do this. And I'm going to just sort of do it quick and dirty for now because I can finesse it later all that I want. And you'll see it's going to be pushing and pulling on what I've created. I'm also going to pull it away from the wall a little bit so that, see, and since my selection is a circle, it's going to be a little trickier here. Yeah, see what it's doing over there? Okay, so just for example purposes, I'm going to grab a simpler one up here just for the time being. Let's grab this one, make a copy. I'm going to bring this down here. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to choose to edit it. Now it's a lot less for me to have to worry about. So I'm going to place this here, and then I'm just going to grab everything but that panel, push it against the wall. See, it's doing some interesting things here. So I'm going to grab just that and set it. Grab these and lift them up. This is where I'm going to start getting really sort of nitpicky and finessey eventually, but at the moment, just trying to match this. Now I've got a sort of a seam here. I'm going to stretch this out a bit like that. And I'm going to stretch these guys, move them here and this guy. Come on, go over this way. Now this is really quite messy what I'm doing here. So a lot of it's going to be sort of eyeballing. Luckily, I want this to be wonky. Now I also can do a soft select. If I take this, I hold down the trigger and I move the, let's see, there we go. See that inner circle? That allows me to grab something and it makes a softer select. So I'm sort of influencing pieces around it. And so I could choose to do that when I get into starting to fine tune this. I could also just, there we go. because this is 3D and in VR, I can really see depth-wise what I'm doing in a way that it would be much, much harder in a traditional 2D screen on your computer using Blender or Maya or 3D Max. You can see it's not actually meeting the wall, so I'm going to grab these back vertices and sort of cheat them out and pull them. This is a rabbit warren after all, so I can get away with that. Okay, so that's roughly placed. And I'm definitely going to come back in here and do some more of this. So let's leave this one and go get another one. So I'm going to grab the same thing for now, make a copy of it. And I'm going to want a door here. So I'm going to just make this editable. And I'm going to just grab and delete these guys. So now I've only got this to worry about. And you can see that since I squished this one down, I'm going to have to do the same here. I'm going to actually maybe scale it down, take it a little bit closer in size to the end piece I've squished. And then I'm going to bring these together. And I'm not going to worry so much about the seam. I can fix that later. Come and finesse that later. For now, I'm mostly worried about just getting it all on the wall. Just pull these back. Oops. Okay, whoops, that looks messy. Let's pull these back. Okay, so pretty quickly I'm starting to get this really complex, sort of weird, cartoony wainscoting. So now it's time for a door. So let's go door shopping. And let's take maybe this door. Do the same thing. I'm going to grab it, press a button, and I'm duplicating it. So I still have my palette of doors here. I'm going to come down in here and let's say this is a smaller door. I'm going to shrink it, place it there. And now I can get rid of this one. So I'm going to go to where my roughs are, unlock this, grab this and throw it away. Lock it again so I don't grab one again in the future. Just make sure this is the right connection to this wainscoting. And then I'm going to edit this and do the same thing I did before, which I'm just going to pull this geometry against the wall. It hides a lot of sins when I do that. Let's move it a little bit more. Like that. Door. Okay, let's go shopping for one more panel. I'll just do the same for this purpose. Make a copy. I'm going to bring it down in here. And I'm noticing that if I place this here, I'm going to hit another door pretty soon. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to edit this. Just remove this much of it. And this guy looks smaller, this little gap here. So I'm going to just sort of pre-shorten it. So when I bring it down, it's kind of ready for me to bend. I might have to skew the others a bit. So let's bring, and also it's shorter to match up with these guys here a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to edit it, grab everything over here, bring it over around the corner. Now see what I did, I misjudged. So I'm going to pull these out a little bit. this a little bigger, longer. I want to get it to reach the corner at the very least. Come over here. These guys are going to go here. Probably trimmed off more than I needed to. Marry that into the wall. Bring those back a little bit. Okay. Maybe bring you out a little bit more. Take that back. Okay, that's nice and rough. Oops, it's not touching the floor. Trying to avoid the wall coming through. Okay, more wacky wainscoting. Okay, another door. Let's go shopping for another door. How about this guy? Well, it's got that top piece. How about this one? Make a copy. Bring it down here. And it's on a corner, sort of. I'm going to dye it into there. I'm just happy I'm not the carpenter that has to figure out how to make these doors work. Okay. Oops. Okay, let me turn on the rough layer so I can get rid of the drawn door. There we go. Lock it again. I'm going to edit this. Oops. Yep. Bring these back into the wall. You two. You two. Maybe you guys are going to go get lifted up a little bit. This door doesn't have to be that wonky. I can. That's really leaning, but maybe that's okay. Okay. So definitely could use some finessing, but you're getting the idea. And you see how incredibly helpful it is to be able to see through the walls. If I go around the back, you can see that the wainscoting is visible in the back. And notice because I'm editing it, because I'm using the subdivisions, it's turned on both sides. So now it's opaque. When I bring it out of here and I bring it back into Blender and back in here again, I can turn that off too. But for now, it's ultimately going to be seen, like this. So I'm not so terribly worried. So rather than boring you with watching me do this process through all the hallways, I'm going to jump ahead and I will show you what this all looks like once I've put all the wainscoting and doors in place. And then we'll start talking about creating the props and furniture that will start to fill out this environment. Okay. Okay, this is me jumping ahead, and I've finished all of the wainscoting, saving you from having to watch me go through the process of doing every little one. This is still just rough placement, but you can see I've now covered up all that color that indicated the wainscoting, and now I've placed these pieces down in here, and now I can get rid of these. I don't really need them. For now, I could always bring them back in if I want, but let's get down inside of here and see what it feels like. Let's just make sure we're 100%, so we're the right scale. I'm at 50 here, and 100%. Okay, and I'll take out teleportation. So this is a little low for me, but you're starting to get an idea of what it feels like to wander around inside these hallways. So everything's got kind of a charming scale to it, very, very wonky wainscoting here, and making my way down eventually into this great room, which I have yet to work on. And we'll come back to this, but let's go back up this hallway just to get a feel. So the doors are all different sizes, big and small. And so my next job is going to be to build out furniture and picture frames and light fixtures so that we can populate this. And then once all those things are in, I'm going to start coming back in here and coloring it again. But so anyway, it's coming along nicely. It definitely has that strange, weird, cartoony feel that I was looking for, and this was just to show you how by bringing in assets and then manipulating them to make them fit the environment, you can get a lot of work done fairly quickly to create a space. So next time it's prop making. See you then.